Welcome everyone to the channel. The very first car I'm going to review is a car that is near and dear to my heart, the 370Z. This Z34 generation is the 6th generation in a lineup of sports cars Nissan has been creating since the late 1960s. Today I'm going to talk about why this car is so fantastic. The swooping, aggressive lines and curves is an eye-catching work of art. Even though this Z34 has been around for over 10 years, it still remains an all-time Japanese classic. Alright guys, so this is it. This is my 2016 Nissan 370Z, and this is my second car. So what I'll do is I'll go over some of the exterior features first, go over some of the interior features, and then finally the engine and the trunk space. Starting with the exterior. So the car itself has a relatively short wheelbase, which helps for cornering, and in my opinion it actually helps with city parking and parallel parking in tight spaces. The car is a little bit on the wider side. This shorter wheelbase will help it kind of fit into tighter spaces and make it easy to drive in city conditions like this. So starting from the front, the car has a little bit of an aggressive wide stance with a very long hood in the front. We have standard LED lights on the outside, as well as daytime running lamps down here. On the side we have 18-inch standard Nissan matte smoked wheels wrapped in Yokohama Advanced Sports. Those are all stock on the Nissan, which this is the touring model. And then on the side, which is a really nice touch, is they have this little Z logo here. Now what's kind of cool and quirky about this car is a lot of cars have their turn signals on their mirrors these days, but on this particular model here, we have our turn signals on the side of our car right here. So these blink when you're putting your right and left blinkers on, which is kind of cool in my opinion. On the outside, you can also see that these are heated mirrors, so that's a nice feature to have during the winter time. And in terms of the rear, obviously, again, this is a very wider vehicle. It has very large rear fender flaps, so very shapely, in fact, that when you look in your side view mirror, see this large fender, which I think is really nice. And then just the simple 370Z logo here, along with the brand in the center. On the back, you have a standard normal rear brake light, and then these are the beaded LED lights that were first introduced by the Infiniti G35 almost a decade ago. In the rear, they have standard dual exhaust tips. These are just stock of what Nissan has provided, along with an extra brake light down here and driving light, which allows for better visibility from other vehicles at night. So that's pretty much the basics on the outside, and now I'll delve into the interior. All right, let's talk about the seats now. So the seats are leather with kind of this Alcantara insert in the middle, and as you can see, it's perforated, so that allows you to be a little bit more comfortable. And the seats also have high and low heater settings and full way power adjustable, as well as on the driver's seat there are lumbar adjustments to kind of get you the correct seating position. However, there's good pedal placement here. The way that the setup is, it's very easy to heel and toe downshift, just based off of the pedal placement. But I do like the aluminum nice touches that they have here, along with these kind of hard rubber grips, so when your foot is wet or whatever, it'll be a little bit better to drive with. You have the ability to save your garage door openers if you have any. You do have the ability to program that on this. And then in terms of the top, you do have actually decent sized sun visors. However, I do think they're kind of a little bit on the larger side, so when you put them down, you can't actually see anything at all. The touring models do come with satellite navigation, and you have an option to get satellite radio if you'd like. I usually don't care about that because I'm more focused on the driving. And then you do have front and side airbags, which is very useful. All right, now finally the tachometer in the middle. So what's really cool, and I'll start this up really quick. Every time you start the car, the needles will actually do a little dance where they go all the way to the top and then revert back to zero. So the tachometer shows very kind of simple information. I'd say there's, you know, a lot more newer cars that are a lot more fancier, have more digital displays, but this just kind of has the classic look to it, with a large tachometer in the middle, with showing the RPMs on the right, the speedometer up to 180, and on the left shows a couple of different things, such as any maintenance requirements, fuel range, outside temperature, and your average miles per gallon. And then over here is actually kind of something that's unique to the Nissan as well. I'd say the GTR kind of has sort of a similar thing, more advanced version of it, obviously. But it kind of just has the oil temperature here, the battery voltage here, and the time here. And if you look, what I like about it is they're all turned towards the driver, not the passenger. So this makes it a very driver's oriented car. In terms of the dash up here, this is made of a little bit of a harder type of plastic. However, this, which is a little bit softer to the touch, lines up the top of the dash, as well as the tops of this up here. This is a 6-speed manual transmission. This car does come in automatic, but obviously I prefer the manuals just because I think they, you know, enhance the driving experience, and I won't get too much into that, but everybody knows that. And in terms of the glove compartment, it's actually okay. You have to kind of push it all the way in order for you to access what's inside. It does have kind of one of those portable chargers in here, or I'm sorry, cigarette lighters in here for charging things, and it does have an automatic direct plug-in. If you choose to connect your phone or need to charge something in here, you do have a USB port. This car does support Bluetooth wireless. So when you're playing music, you can control it from your phone, whether it's connected directly to here, or you can just connect it wirelessly. This car does have a 6 CD changer. Volume controls, these are actually a little cheap to the touch in my opinion, but at least they have a nice finish on it. Nothing's fallen off at this point. Now here, in this little space down here, there's actually on other models, not on this particular one because it is an added option. This was actually the first car to have a auto sync rev function. So when you would push this button down here, it would actually automatically blip the throttle below for you while you're downshifting. Now I think that's actually a really clever feature. However, I don't have it on this car, but it is something that I think was unique about the Nissan 370Z when it first came out, and as I guess one of the premier things about this car when it first came out. In terms of the audio, it has a Bose stereo sound system. It sounds pretty good. I mean, I would say the Harman Kardons of these days are probably more advanced than this. And in terms of the glove compartment, it is completely useless. I have the guidebook in here, as well as the owner's manual, and just an envelope that has my insurance information. And since the glove box, it's normal sized here, but it has quite a narrow opening, so you can't really fit too much in there. And in terms of the cup holders, there's one in the center and there's one small one on each of the doors. So I actually think that's fairly usable. And then in terms of extra storage, you have these little spaces back here where I kind of just keep a bunch of random crap. And then on this side, there's actually a small little cubby that you can open up. This is where I keep, you know, the car's documents as well as maintenance records, emergency napkins for those spills, which we all know about. And then you can close that and keep it hidden from view. And then here you can kind of add any overflow from the trunk. What's nice is on this car, this is an added option. This steel beam is actually for extra stability. On the Nissan 350Z, it actually used to be in between those two inserts where the wheel arches were, and they connected, and it was totally a big huge waste of dead space in the trunk. But so they moved it up here after listening to those kinds of complaints, and it actually serves fairly well here. This is actually an added option which has a screen protector, or I'm sorry, a trunk cover for kind of just blocking all the belongings from view. When you're parked in the city, I think it's a really nice feature to have. Obviously, if you're using some taller things, you can always just take it out. So that's a pretty useful feature as well. So that's pretty much it for the interior. Now I will go show you guys the engine as well as the trunk space. All right, to access the engine, all you have to do is pull this front trunk hood right here. Also to note, the traction control button is here, so you just have to hold it for a couple of seconds, and then you'll get right in the center console that the traction control has been turned off. All right, but anyways, let me get out and show you guys the engine. This is a 3.7 liter V6 VQ engine that's also used in the Maximas and the Ultimas. But what I like about this engine is there's no turbo lag. So since it's naturally aspirated, the torque band in the car is very, very linear, and you'll get a very smooth inflow of power all the way up to redline at 7,500. So this produces 332 horsepower and 276 foot-pounds of torque. However, since the power band is very linear, I do feel like it has more torque than that. And this is the same engine that they've been using almost for the last 15 years. In terms of maintenance, it is considered pretty low maintenance. This car has known to have engine heat temperatures. However, I took it to the track about a couple months ago and ran it on the track for about an hour and a half or so, and it actually performed quite well. No issues with it overheating. There's an extra strut bar in the middle for added rigidity, just like in the rear. So overall, the chassis is very well balanced for this car. It obviously adds a lot of value for people that like to take their cars to the tracks on weekends. Let's take this guy for a drive, and I'll tell you a little bit about how it drives and rides on the road. I've owned it for about 2 years, and I have to say, I absolutely love it. Is it a perfect car? No, of course it's not. There are faults, and I'll get to that in a second. But the point of this video is to tell viewers why it's a great car, especially for your money at this current point in time. If you're looking for a sports car that can also be used as a daily driver, that you can also take to the track to punish the hell out of it on weekends, this is something you should seriously consider. We'll go over specs first, just the basics. Formula: engine in the front, rear wheel drive, and manual transmission in the middle. And I think, sometimes simple is better, but I think that's actually what makes it so special. In this segment, there are several different kinds of cars that you could buy for around this price point. I purchased this car 2 years ago with 29,500 miles for just over $23,000. That has the Alcantara and leather seats, as well as the 18-inch alloy wheels that you'll see on this car in a second. I think the other cars that are in comparison with this would be the Mazda Miata, the Scion FRS or Subaru BRZ, and even if you wanted to stretch the dollar, a used Porsche Cayman S. Now, all those are great cars in their own right, but I really think that this one is something that you should consider if you're still looking for a sports car to drive daily. I don't really feel uncomfortable at all. There's plenty of potholes in the city of Chicago if anyone lives around here that's watching, but I don't feel uncomfortable. And I think that makes it really, really good and handles city conditions really, really well. The gearbox isn't the best. It's a little on the clunky side, but in terms of just daily use, I think it definitely can get the job done. You get a very, very comfortable seating position relative to where the pedal placement is on the car. That's obviously important when you're driving fast. You need a good seating position in order to be able to turn the wheel well and be able to access everything within a blink of an eye. I'm driving along at about 30-something miles an hour, and it's very quiet in here. I think that, it's a very livable daily driver's car. Obviously, there are some positives and drawbacks to this, and I'll go over the cons first. This car isn't the most practical car. It certainly isn't the most fuel economical car. It certainly isn't the cheapest car, especially in this segment. And last but not least, the people that harp on this car the most state that it hasn't been dated since 2009 when the 370Z got its last facelift. Previously to this, the 350Z made waves when it first hit the market. It made appearances in Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift. And it also, the 370Z, this current generation, made its appearance in Fast 5 when Gal Gadot did this drifting scene and Han fell in love. I think what's important about this car is I understand that there are drawbacks because it's not outdated, especially in this era where cars are becoming electronically controlled and self-parking and self-charging. as well as self-driving. Obviously, with that, this car has none of those things. And that's exactly why it's so good. Now, if you're in the market and you want to get a used car under $30,000 US, this is a very, very strong option that I think you should consider. Now in these days, that doesn't seem very fast amongst these modern Mustangs, Challengers, and Camaros that can probably go faster in a straight line. But in my opinion, that's not what this car is all about. This car is about balance, feel, and overall agility through corners while still having a good amount of straight line speed. There is a reason why they use the Z car in Tokyo Drift Fast and Furious, because this thing has that kind of poise in order to pull these kinds of maneuvers off. The Z cars came out back in the 1950s as under the name Datsun. And the very first Z car created was the Nissan, or I should say Datsun 240Z. And when you compare that car to now, well, there really isn't actually much of a difference. You had an engine in the front, rear-wheel drive in the back, and a manual transmission in the middle. Now, in my opinion, people harp and say, oh, there hasn't been any changes on this car, but on the next generation, which is rumored to be maybe released in 2021 or 2022, the 400Z would be the successor to this car. And my worst fear is the fact that it actually may not come in manual transmission at all. Take a look at the 2020 Toyota Supra. They're only offering that with an automatic transmission. This actually might be the last kind of sports car that you can get, you know, for brand new if you chose to. Although I recommend getting used. So the car has 332 brake horsepower and 265 foot-pound of torque. The result is not to 60. In just under 5 seconds. And onto a top speed of 155 miles per hour, electronically limited. Nowadays, that doesn't really seem like a lot, especially compared to, let's say, the new Camaro or the new Mustang GT. It probably has better numbers than that all around. However, that being said, it does not feel underpowered.